Hi, in this video we'll try to understand source maps in detail. So in the previous video we saw that clicking on this button gave this particular stack trace. And if I clicked on any of these links, we can see that it will actually go to the file and to the line where this particular error was thrown. So this is actually possible due to the presence of source maps. So in the Neeto ecosystem, we have enabled source maps in the development environment, and in the production and staging environment. Even though source maps are available, these won't be available inside the browser. So this behavior will not be possible in the staging and development environments. So in order to understand more fully, I'll close this and I'll refresh the network tab. I'll refresh the site so that the network tab reloads. So here we can see we have an application.js file. So this is the bundle that is responsible for rendering the entire website. So if I try to read through the code, you can see that this is actually unreadable. This is because the Babel and Webpack has done its magic, and all the code has now been converted to a format which is not actually readable to us. So if we need to debug something, it will be virtually impossible for us to read through it and understand where the error is coming from. So this is where source maps comes in. So what source map does is it uses this code and the source map, and it converts it into the format that looks exactly like our code base. So if I go to the sources tab, we have a webpack folder, and within it we have app javascript src, where we have all the components that we have written. So if I need to specifically find the component that I've just modified, I'll go to the index file of sites folder, and I can see the button that I had just created. So this is what the importance of source map is. So now we'll see how the Neeto ecosystem is built. So in the Neeto site, we have a webpack.config.js file. So this is the default Webpack configuration. It is directly imported from the Neeto Commons frontend. So I'll go to the this particular file in Neeto Commons frontend, which is Webpack index. So here you can see that the dev tool, we have something called the dev tools. So I'll try to explain dev tool in detail now. So here we are using two types of dev tools: a hidden source map or the eval cheap module source map, depending upon the mode. So if the mode is by default, it will be hidden source map. So if the Rails CNV is development, we are using eval cheap module source map. So these are there are a lot of types of source maps which are actually uh, useful depending upon our requirements. So in case of the development environment, we are using eval cheap module source map so that we get the exact line number where we get the error, so that the development process is much more seamless. But in the case of staging and production, we shouldn't be exposing all this information to the end users. So it is not the ideal way to do it. So what we do is we use the hidden source map. So in the hidden source map, what it actually does is that it does not have a reference. So the source map will not have a reference to the original file. So the browser will not be able to build the entire code base exactly like we want to, and all the errors thrown will not be as detailed as we saw right now. So I'll demonstrate it once. So we need to use the hidden source map in the staging and production environments for security purposes. At the same time, we need the source map. So even though this is not compiled by the browser, it will be actually available. The source map itself will be available so that we can use it for the honey badger and other purposes. So here what I'll do is, in order to demonstrate it, I'll make sure that the dev tool is not overridden. So by default, dev tool is hidden source map. I'll make sure it is not overridden in the development environment. So I'll delete this. And so since this is a webpack related change, I need to restart my server. So I'll close it and then start my server once again. So I'll use format to run the server, format. So this is actually an alias to run my format. Okay, so my server will be up and running right now. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll go to open my console. I'll click on, I'll make sure it is refreshed. Okay, now I'll open my console. I click on trigger an error, and immediately you can see that the errors are not at all readable right now. So all these errors are now actually pointing to some minified file, a new line in some minified file, which is actually not at all readable. So this is how the staging and production environments will be throwing the error. And since this is in an unreadable format, the honey badger itself will not be able to configure it to understand it. So if I go to the projects, new project, see this is the latest error that was thrown. So here, if I try to read through it, you can see that it is much more unreadable. So in our previous error, we can see that this was more readable because we had information on about which file this error was coming from. But in this particular case, this is how the staging and production environments will be throwing the error, and we don't have information on where the error is coming from, and this is pretty much useless. So in the later videos, in the next video we'll see how we can upload the source map so that the source map will be available, and we'll see how it will be useful, how the honey badger will be able to use the source map to describe exactly where the error is.